Hello and welcome to the 741 channel. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to take a look at this new Frigidaire 70 pint dehumidifier that will replace this older 70 pint unit from Frigidaire that was covered under the massive dehumidifier recall. So let's get the new unit out of the box and see what we've got. So in the box we had the dehumidifier itself, we had the instruction booklet, and inside the top foam packaging piece we have this drain tube here. You want to make sure you don't end up throwing that away with the packaging material. So before we get started looking at the unit, I've noticed that there is this tape all over the various seams of the unit, so I'm going to pull all this off before we get started. Before I plug the unit in and power it on, let's take a look at a few of the features first. First up, we have a retractable carry handle. On the control panel here, you can see that we have a timer button with indicator LEDs for the timer. Next up, you can see that we have a fan speed button, and you can see from the available indicator lights that we have a 3-speed fan in this unit. Next, we have the humidity controls down and up, and we have the humidity percentage indicator here. Over here is a filter reset button and an indicator light letting us know whether it's time to clean the filter or the bucket is full. And then last up is the on-off button and the power indicator. On the front of the unit, we have the main water bucket, and you can see that it's got this round window in it so you can see where the water level is at. And then just taking a look here, you can see that this is a standard 115 volt type plug. Over here on the side, you can see there is a warning label, and then down below that is a little trapdoor for the drain tube adapter to be mounted to, and I'll be putting this on a little bit later since I'll be using this feature on this unit. On the back of the unit, you can see we have provisions for cord storage, and then just above that is the intake grate with a removable washable filter. So you can see that down here on either side of the water bucket there are recesses in the plastic for your fingers to fit into, and you simply just pull the bucket out when it's time to empty it. So here's a look at the bucket itself. You can see here that on the top of the bucket there is a clear plastic cover, and this will help prevent you from splashing any water out of this thing when it's full and you're trying to empty it. Over here is the float mechanism that engages a sensor switch inside the unit and tells the unit when the bucket is full. And then over here is a retractable handle, so you can easily carry this to wherever it is you need to dump it out. One last thing before we get started with operating this, I'm going to install this drain tube adapter. It's not strictly necessary to use this in order to have a continuous drain. The fitting that's in here is threaded with a regular garden hose fitting, but it's really hard to get your fingers in there, so unless you have something like this, it's going to be difficult to attach your hose, but it can be done if you've misplaced your adapter. So now I'm just going to thread this in like I would any ordinary garden hose. So I'm going to plug this in and turn it on for the first time. Now obviously we're outside, and you really wouldn't use a dehumidifier outside. I'm just out here because the lighting in my cellar, which is where this is going to live, is pretty terrible, and you wouldn't be able to see anything if I filmed it in there. So anyway, let's get it plugged in and see what happens. So I've come partially inside here. Hopefully you guys can see the display now. Out there in the full glare of the sun with the shiny plastic, it was hard to read anything here in the camera. But anyway, I've got the unit plugged in and we're ready to turn it on for the first time. Now hopefully you can see here that the power indicator is lit green, so we're ready to go. So as you can see in here, the unit is on and running. In its default state, you can see that it's set to a fan speed of medium, and the unit is currently measuring a 60% humidity. So first up, if we want to change the fan speed, all we have to do is push the button, and you can see it'll cycle through the options. So you can hear it went over to low, and after about a second the fan slowed down. If I push it again, it'll go to high, and you'll hear the fan speed up. For the purposes of keeping the background audio low on the video, I'm going to set this down to low. Next up, if I want to change the humidity setting, I just hit the up and down arrows to toggle to the humidity percentage that I want to set the unit to. So you can see if I toggle through, I can go 40, 45, and so on and so forth. all the way up to a maximum of 85. Now what that means is that the unit won't kick on unless the humidity is 85% or above. And in fact, if we leave the unit here for a minute or two, it should shut off. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cycle back down. So you can see that the lowest humidity setting was 35%. Anything below that is continuous operation mode, meaning that the unit will continuously run for 24 hours without shutting off. For my needs, I'm going to set this up to a humidity level of 50%. That should work just fine down here in my basement. One more feature here that I'll talk about is the timer button. If you push this, you can see the display changes over to 0.5 by default. Now what that means is that the unit will run for half an hour and then shut off. You can see that you can change it from as little as half an hour to as much as 24 hours for the unit to run for and then shut off. But for my purposes, I'm not going to use the timer, so I'm going to shut it off. As I mentioned before, the lighting down here in the cellar really isn't that great, but you can see where my dehumidifier lives. I've got it up on this table here, and I've got my drain hose connected to it. This kind of goes down and then runs along the floor to a drain in the side of the house and seems to work okay. At least it did on my old unit. I have no reason to suspect that it won't work on this one as well. Really, that's it. I'm going to just fire it up and let it do its job. Here's what it sounds like with the fan on high and the compressor running. I can tell you that it is a bit quieter than my old unit. Not that noise is really an issue for me with this thing living down in the cellar and well away from any living space. Okay, that's pretty much going to do it for the Frigidaire 70 pint dehumidifier. If you want to learn more about this dehumidifier, you'll find a link to its Amazon product page down in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to leave a comment or subscribe, feel free to do that as well. Thanks for watching!